Hi everybody and welcome to blending. So on this bit we're going to actually blend all our components together. Here we have two samples, the alcohol and the water soluble bit. Okay, so we need to put these two together. If you just mixed it like that, you either end up with this or this, and it just separates out in the bottle. If it does this, it really isn't the end of the world. It's still going to work, it's still going to do the same thing, but you don't want that. You want to get something that's presentable and nice and clean, and when you put it in the mouth, it separates and it splits and it precipitates out the active compounds that do the antiviral replication aspect, and they stick to the throat and coat all down the inside of the throat, which is what you want. Now this will still do it. We're trying to avoid that. So blending these together as water and alcohol isn't really going to work. What I have here is glycerin. So I'm blending mine with glycerin, and I'm going to put the water content bit into the glycerin and then the glycerin into the alcohol. If you do it like that, you can get away with it not splitting too badly and being a presentable thing. So we're going to use 600 ml of glycerin per litre of alcohol. Now by the time it's been processed and filtered and played with and stuff, there'll be less than a litre. So I will measure out how much I have and then we'll work out how much glycerin we need. But the ratio is 1 litre of alcohol to 600 ml of glycerin. Now this would give you a 60% alcohol tincture. It could be a little bit higher. If you go any lower than that, if you have more glycerin, then it will definitely split and it's all going to drop out in the bottle. So we could have just under 600 is safe and comfortable. Now the water has twice the splitting power that the glycerin has. So if you put 50 ml of water in, you count that as 100 ml of glycerin. So we could have 500 ml of glycerin and 50 ml of this, and then we can just about get away with blending it together, and we're a little bit over 60%. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that by condensing down our filtered final material. So you'll notice here I've got it running through 3 coffee filters in order to get it to be this clear. Now this isn't perfectly clear. I'd really like to have a vacuum filter to do this, but it didn't arrive, it's stuck in transit somewhere. So 3 coffee filters it is. You need to put it through a set, and then what doesn't go through, put through another set and another set. So you need quite a lot of coffee filters. If you don't have very many, put it through 1 filter, 1 time, 1 pass, clear out any sediment, and it still won't be clear. This isn't quite perfectly clear. It's just not going to be clear because the licorice makes it cloudy, so we'll just have to wear that. It shouldn't be a problem with it splitting. So what I'm going to do is put my jug on a hot plate, turn it on, and then I'm going to pop this in here. And I'm going to condense it down into a nice thick syrup. The other thing you'll notice here is I've got some cling film over the top of my funnels. Because they're going to sit around exposed to atmosphere for some time, it's best to put a cover over it and make sure there's nothing raining down into the liquid that will contaminate it. That's how you end up with getting bacteria in there and viruses and things going off and things going bad. So watch out in this stage because it's sitting open to atmosphere, and when I'm working with my funnels and things, they've got lids on. So this will take a while to boil down. When I get it down to around 50 ml, you'll see it becomes a nice thick syrup. There will come a point where we start to denature and break down compounds and things that are in there. The water will stop coming off, and now we're actually boiling away things that we want. That will be very low down, so I'm going to run with a temperature gun and have a look this time and see how hot it's getting, and when does the water stop coming off, and when does it change any kind of behaviour or anything else. If we can get it down to 50 ml, that will be fantastic, and we can happily and safely just blend it all together. Then to put the glycerin into the alcohol, use something like this. You need the warm glycerin and warm alcohol, and you want it to mix slowly. That way you can get it to really blend together nicely without precipitating out. You can be fairly quick at the beginning, and you really need to slow down at the end. Okay, come back to the other bits of the video and I'll show you anything else interesting that happens. Right, it's time to blend and bottle. So over here I've got my super antioxidant tea, which is now a really nice thick syrup. You see how it's just a little foamy bubbly mess. Okay, so I'm down to, I would guess, somewhere between 25 ml and 50 ml. that back on there. I've had a little screen on it to stop any little things falling in there, and it was sealed up last night. So, okay, it's boiling, so it's hot and it's sterile. In here, I've got glycerin that's now at sort of 45, 50 degrees. And in here, I've got my alcohol bit in some warm water, because you want to get it all warm. So I've got 750 ml of alcohol in there. Our ratio is 1 litre to 600 ml, so that's 10 to 6. So for every 10 ml, we're going to add 6 ml of end stuff over here. So 750 divided by 10 is 75, times 6 is 450. So I want 450 ml in this jar, and I've got my glycerin that's a little bit warm. I can add it to here. Let's just put a little bit in. Right, so not to crack the glass. Start warming it up. Warm up a bit. Now, glycerin boils at over 200 Celsius. And I said I wanted 450. So we'll come up here to 450. About there. Right, so as I was saying, glycerin boils at over 200. So if this is boiling and you pour it in there, it's going to explode. Right, don't heat this up until it boils. Get yourself a little stirry stick. Everything has been sterilised and cleaned. All my trays are sterile, my bottles are here. I'm filling them with alcohol and then transferring it across to sterilise them. So I'm just going to give the glycerin a little bit of a mix. Now we have our syrup. Okay. I'm going to leave it on there, I'm going to turn that down a bit. I'm just going to let it warm up, and then I'm going to transfer it into here and stick it in my ultrasound tank so I've got it nice and warm. And when I'm fairly sure it's all warm, we're going to start blending it together. And once we've blended it together, we'll put it in the bottles. So we're all ready. This is now nice and warm. It's at about 50 degrees. Turn that off. This is nice and warm. You can see there's some condensation inside the glass. It's obviously more than hot enough. It doesn't want to be any hotter than that. If you start seeing lots of alcohol dripping around inside, it's definitely too hot. So now I'm going to add a little bit. Just a squirt. I'm going to leave it for a minute. So let it sit on the bottom. Just let it sit there and start to dissolve a little bit. Right? And we'll give it a little stir, a little small gentle stir. We don't want it to blend really quickly, otherwise we will have a problem. And then that's all you have to do. Just keep working like that. And a bit more. Okay, now that you've started to add some, pick the jar up and have a look in the bottom and see if you've got a load of glycerin floating around in the bottom. Because I had that on a batch earlier, it just sort of settled onto the floor. It's okay, as long as it's going in, then that's fine. Okay, we're about halfway through, or just over. I've got most of my material in there. And you're starting to get the very first bit of splitting. So come over here and have a close look at what we're seeing. So this is where you're going to start being careful. You see what we have now? It's like little floatiness in there. Little bits of floaty stuff. It's just starting to drop and to precipitate. But it's okay, we're going to carry on because we have to thin it down. We can't take it at this strength. It's just impossible to drink it at that strength. You've got to get it down to at least 75. So we can add a little bit at a time now. And leave that in there and keep it warm. And leave this in here and keep it warm. And there we go, it's all in. That's all the glycerin has gone into all of the alcohol, and it hasn't turned into a muddy puddle, which is lovely. So now all I've got to do is give it 5 minutes, let it just finish dissolving and mixing and settling. And then I can put it into my bottle here where we can see it easier. And then I can decant that off. And we've got finished product in little bottles ready to go to people.